Good morning, everyone. Happy to see you all. Now we're just waiting for others to join. And while other colleagues and maybe participants are joining us, I would like kindly to ask you to mute your microphone because it helps us, since it's a recorded session, help us to get a clear communication and voice. Thank you. I'm happy to see you, maybe joining from different region and different also countries. So I'm happy, please put us on the chat. Where are you joining us from? I'm admitting Ghada, still people coming in. Great.
Good morning, Maya. This is Hema from India. So I'm driving right now, so I can't type. So I just wanted to introduce myself. This is Hemlata from Cadenza here, India.
Thank you, Hema. Thank you. Nice to meet you, and please drive safe. Today, as we said, that session is about having this unusual culture within an organization and how a startup can scale it up in a successful way. Many of you have already registered to our directory and also follow us on NAMA Women and UN Women network and social media. So please, if you would like to share all the knowledge that you're getting today on this session, please do and tag us as well. We're happy to amplify your messages and your posts. As I was telling you, many of you have already applied for our registration and our directory, and we're happy to have now our directory online. We're having Women-Owned Business Directory where they can, everyone could source from them, as well as they can be linked to private and public sector. And here it is. This is the directory. You can scan the QR code to get in and look at it. And if you would like also to be part of it, and you are 51% owned by women, please let us know and reach to us on the chat box or even by email. I'm going to send you the link so that the directory is searchable by alphabetical order, by service, as well as by subcategories. Now, before we start, I would like to know a bit more about how do you feel yourself, how knowledgeable you are about sales mastery and process. So I'm gonna launch a quick poll. Please just reply to it so we can know what is the level, and this is how Ghada would be able to cater your needs while doing the presentation and the workshop. So Ghada, we have quite knowledgeable, I would say, audience, because they're between average good and we have few into no knowledge at all. That's good because this is the right place. We want to get more people knowledgeable about sales process. I'm waiting as well others to reply. Please put on your preferred or maybe estimated knowledge level. So we have 50% or 54% are in average. That's good. That put a lot of pressure on you, Ghada, because we want to get out all of us from this session with a great knowledge and understanding. Without further ado, I'm gonna stop the launch, the poll, sorry, and introduce Ghada. Ghada is the tech leader with 22 years in IT. She started her tech journey or career as a software engineer in IBM in 2003. In 2015, Ghada was identified as top technical woman talent for IBM Middle East and Africa. Ghada joined General Electric Digital in 2017, where she led a team of software engineers, data science and analytics, and IoT, which Internet of Things, to develop global business solutions. In September 2018, Ghada was promoted as a global senior director of the GE Power Digital Technology and Services. And today, Ghada is the head of professional services, public sector at Amazon Web Services, Middle East. Ghada is an Open Group certified distinguished architect, and she's a technical mentor and career advisor. She as well, she was named as the Society of Women Engineers Ambassador for the UAE in 2017-2019. We're very happy to have you today with us, Ghada, and as I told you earlier, like it feels overwhelming to see women leading in such a digital world.
No,
Thank
Maya,
you so
I lost you. I'm not sure if it's me or everyone else can't hear you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna repeat it a bit, baby. I was saying that I'm happy to host you today, and we're looking forward to our session.
So thanks a lot, Maya, and thanks to everyone who joined us today. I'm really excited to be with you all. I hope you can hear me clearly. So we have a good 90 minutes workshop where we will talk more about sales tactics, and what happens also after sales. So let me share my screen and we can kick it off. I'm looking forward for an interactive session. So it's not only a one way where I will be presenting. Please feel free to stop me, raise questions, and let's have this conversation. And let's hope that everyone will be at an excellent level towards the end of the session. So let's get started. I'll share the screen. So once shared, just let me know you can see it all. So can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So let's kick it off. So again, today we're gonna talk about a different culture, different idea. This session really is an eye-opener into how different organizations tackle sales and growth in a different perspective. And here we'll talk about innovation and how it really drives business differently and creates unique proposition for your startups, your businesses in the market and with your customers, and how really being very customer centric is the recipe for success for everyone. So what we will cover today, and again, we're giving more of a lens, a deep lens into how Amazon and Amazon Web Services, which is one of the Amazon companies, really operated. We will look into the culture itself and our beliefs around our Amazon leadership principles that maybe some of you already are aware of. Some of you this might be a new topic, but I'm sure many of you will be able to relate as we talk through. We will highlight the hallmark of our innovation mechanism and how we work with our customers, which we call as the working backwards mechanism. We will discuss things around underlying architecture that really supports speed, because speed is very critical for success of all businesses, and trying to make the right decisions, trying to innovate, experiment, fail, and pivot fast. This is important. Again, this is not a technical presentation, but I'll just highlight on some of the ideas into how this can really work into driving the speed. We'll talk about also how the organization structure itself within your company, startups, businesses really makes a difference. And we'll talk about the Amazon 2 pizza team structure. And last but not least, it's not only about sales. It's not only about growing in the market. It's also about the whole ecosystem of how you're enabling the customers afterwards, once they have purchased your products or services, okay, how they can leverage the best out of it. And we'll highlight more around this whole ecosystem. So I hope this will cover many of the things you guys are looking for. So let me know if you have different thoughts or other topics that we will cover throughout the workshop today. So does it sound good? You guys can give thumbs up on the chat window, and my rely that you will give me feedback if we need to stop and address any questions.
Please, thank you so much, Ghada. And actually, I'm going to ask all the audience, please, to throw out all these questions and thoughts and feedback through the chat. I will be happy to raise it to you.
Perfect. Okay, so I believe many of you, if not all of you, knows already Amazon, the biggest online retail worldwide. And we're super excited. Amazon also is here in the region and in the UAE. So why did we pick specifically Amazon, for example, to cover the tactics of how they work today? Because Amazon actually started as a startup. And accordingly, the mindset of Amazon, since it launched in 1995 till today, is a very much driven around the startup community and how to operate as a business from a startup's mindset, how to work with customers to have relevant products, how to keep scaling and expanding those product portfolio to the customers, and how to put these customers always first and invent on behalf of customers to address their needs. So as any company, there must be a mission that you are operating against, right? And Amazon's mission, when it kicked off, was very generic, but still simple and very focused, right? It's to be the Earth's most customer-centric company. So if you think about it, it might sound really broad, but actually throughout this presentation, I'll show you how really we operate around this mission and how the customer is really the center of everything, into how Amazon started as a very small business in a garage and how it became a multi-billion-dollar business today that everyone knows about and scaled internationally across the whole globe. So, and where it actually begins when you work with customers, it always begins with innovation. And innovation, again, here is not only about technology, it's about inventing, it's about thinking of new ideas, about unique propositions, about where the customer need and pain is, and how you can offer set of products, services, etc., to address those needs. So we always start with the customer and always work backwards from there. So this is a quote that was shared by Jeff Bezos, who is the founder and CEO of Amazon.com. So what Jeff said is that most companies do write softwares and they believe they got it all right. And then after completion, and once the software is ready to be launched, actually they go and connect to the marketing departments or marketing teams that they have and ask them for, okay, this is what we built. Go ahead and write the press release and let's start going to the market to sell the product, right? And this process on its own, as per to Jeff, is actually a backward process on its own. Why do you think, guys, Jeff said this, or why do you believe that this can be a backward process rather than a process that really can drive success? What's your thoughts about this? Let's make this a little bit more interactive here. Anyone who wants, we can take one or two.
Yes, hi,
Hello.
Jawahar.
Hi. So yeah, because I think when sometimes we work in product development, we work in silo and we just think about our own technology limitation and what we can do with the product itself without thinking about the customer. And just when we go, because I used to work for marketing, so when we go to the market, we just remember the customer at that point, and it should be well thought of from the beginning about would this work when we market it to the customer. So if we thought about the customer from the beginning, we would think it backward.
Absolutely, absolutely spot on. Any one more person who would like to contribute?
Let me, if you don't, actually, let me just get the chat on the chat box. We have few answers as well. Last time, I'm sorry, they are not in touch with the market from the start. Narmin said, start with the solution in mind and not the other way around. He suggests that companies study customer needs first and then build the software. And as you said, as also Jawahar said, that no customer involvement unless we are at the marketing stage where we hit and we are in front of the customer. He wants to show us the new ways. There is no word about customers and their needs in this process.
Absolutely. So this is, you guys all summarized it really well, and it shows that you already have really good experience around products and how to position in the market. So this is exactly the challenge, is that when you try to think on behalf of the customer rather than thinking with the customer and listening to the customer, and then you go and invent a product that you think will make it all right for your customers, and then suddenly you're hit with realities where there are gaps, there are still needs that are not fulfilled. It's not necessarily that you created the product that the market or the customer segment really needs. And accordingly, this is where it's very challenging to position this product and to be able to sell, scale, and grow further with your customer base. And accordingly, you can go and run into lots of other internal challenges as well around optimizing around your costs, lining up of your teams, making sure you have also a successful business, and really achieving those right customer references and success stories with the customers. So this is exactly where it gets really challenging. So if you look at the Amazon history here, and you can see it has been a long history. It started all back in 1994 when Jeff incorporated the company and thought about a very simple thing, which is to create an online bookstore. And at that time, this was a very disruptive idea to the typical bookstores and shops, where you have to walk in, look for your books, and it depends if you can find the book in this bookstore and bookshop or not. So, and how you can improve the reach of the different books to your customer base. And this is where it came up with this idea, like, okay, let's do an online bookstore, which was launched officially in 1995 as a web application. People go, search for the books, are able to find them, it gets shipped to them. Then things started evolving more, because as you work more with customers, then you can think and invent into more, to expanding to new areas and products, and expanding your customer base and segments on the go. So this is where Amazon started moving from being just an online bookstore to, okay, why don't we make it a store for everything, where actually customers can go into the site and search broader set of products and actually be able to purchase these products and get them to their doorsteps. Looking into how also Amazon kept working with customers and listening to needs. So how they started tapping into other areas like hardware devices by releasing Amazon Kindle, looking into things around gaming studios, Amazon Art, etc. So lots of other product sets that launched, and this all came as a progression from listening to customer needs, finding those unique requests in the market and the needs, and trying to fulfill them. So in that case, Amazon did not really think about a specific industry or a specific technology domain. Instead, Amazon was really agnostic, where they looked and tapped into opportunities where they can help customers. And this is where came the different launch of the different product sets across the years, including Amazon Web Services, which was launched in 2006. And I will tap more into details of how Amazon Web Services was launched, because it's a very interesting story. And like this, Amazon kept reinventing and innovating on behalf of customers to address those different unique requirements. Okay, so how did really Amazon Web Services, which is cloud computing, I know many of you might not come from technology background, some of you also might be coming from technology background. So cloud computing is very simple. It is the concept where if, let's say, you want to build a web application, so you want to think about, okay, I need some infrastructure, which means servers, storage, etc. So you need to actually build for those, or go get them from somewhere, so you can build your application and run on it. And many of the industries, of course, require technology as of today, with all the transformation happening around us. where all the need for technology as of today, especially after COVID, we've seen lots of changes, and the need for more of those technology systems to enable us to operate in a better and optimized and efficient manner, right? So how did this actually start? So Amazon, it started as a retail store, online store. It's an e-commerce platform, right? And of course, behind the engine, there had huge warehouses and facility management systems and ordering systems in order to fulfill the customer needs, right? So between the physical locations of the warehouses and all the technology that needs to operate those, in addition to the online e-commerce platform itself that you log into in order to order your products. So when they had to implement this application and software and platforms, they have realized that eventually, in order to cater for scale, where millions of users are leveraging their systems, I don't know how many times you've recalled that you tried to access Amazon and it was down, probably zero, right? So every time you want to access the platform, it's online, it's working, you're placing your orders, you're getting them, you're rating your service, you can return defected items. I can't recall, I've heard from anyone that Amazon went down and you guys are not able to get your stuff through. How did this actually happen? Is that Amazon had to invent for its own self by creating the environment, what they call as the infrastructure, and the services that will enable for this mass scale. And one day, one of the engineers was sitting, who was leading this whole global infrastructure, was thinking, okay, we've developed this, it's a very reliable, scalable solution. Why don't we offer it to a new customer segment? Because also, similar to Amazon, many customers also want to invent by building new applications and invent for their own customers as well. So there is a common durable need here where people want to go and create systems and applications, and they really want to focus on the applications because this is the business encapsulated in a technology platform, and this is how you can improve your scale, right? So this is where they thought, okay, this is a new customer base where you're addressing developers, you're addressing those businesses. Why don't we offer the infrastructure that we built as a service to this customer base? So like this, they don't need to worry about this infrastructure at all. And let's just give them the space to think about the innovation, the business cases that they want to implement for their customers and their end users, and innovate rather than building infrastructures which is already existing, and Amazon can really offer it to its to this new customer segment. And accordingly, this was the launch of Amazon Web Services, which is the cloud computing organization of Amazon, which today is a multi-billion-dollar business as well on its own. And it's really serving millions of customers around the world across multiple vertical segments and industries, enabling and giving them hundreds of services so that they can easy and fast invent and provide those solutions to their customers as well. So any questions here? Anyone is aware about Amazon Web Services and Amazon in general? And is it clear now how did they think? So this is all the innovative thinking of listening to customer needs and inventing on behalf of customers. Thumbs up on the chat. Okay, so let's move forward. So this is, so how did Amazon grow? And this is a concept which we call as the Amazon growth flywheel. So the whole idea here is that when you are, as a startup, addressing your customers, what you look for, which is most important, is the customer experience. If you have a successful customer experience, then this drives growth. This drives profitability for your businesses. This provides best outcome for your own customers. and accordingly, it's an overall success and win-win for you and your customers, right? So how does this work in Amazon? So if you have a great customer experience, this creates traffic. So if you think about Amazon retail website, we want to get more traffic, right? Because this means more customers are using the system, more customers are ordering products online, and they're satisfied and happy, right? So it creates this traffic. When traffic is created, okay, this can excite more sellers who want to sell the products on Amazon as an online e-commerce platform, right? So when you increase the seller's portfolio into the into your e-commerce platform, this means you're availing better selection to your customer because you're broadening your product set on the website. And when the selection increases, of course, the customer experience increase. But it's not limited to that also. There is other stuff that we look into as well, which is mainly what is a common thing that many customers are looking for in reality when they are buying products online, or even if you go to the shops at any of the stores, retail stores physically. What do you think the main thing that the customers are looking for? I would like to hear a couple of answers. And there is no right and wrong answer. Feel free to share.
I believe quality and convenience.
Absolutely. Any other idea?
Yes, on the chat, we're having great price, latest product, comparison to the select the best. So we have a comparison as well. Quality and price, lower price, quality again, and price. Price is a main determinant factor. Delivery and great value for cost, accuracy. Yes, keep it going. Many products. So the availability of different products is important as well for the selection. What else? The experience.
Yeah.
Summarizes all. Great customer experience after sales service, and being like, I would say, targeting different age, freedom of choice.
Nice, nice. So if you look at this, we call these as durable demands, right? What does it mean? It means that it's consistent request, that there is no point in time that you'll find the customer changing their mind on those requests. So if you say prices, and I've heard it a lot, Maya has mentioned that, you guys mentioned it a lot, absolutely spot on, because you'll never find a customer who will not ask for lower prices, right? You'll not find a customer who's asking for low quality or low customer experience. And this is exactly the key tenets that Amazon was looking for when they were building the product. How to address those durable needs and requests that will stay for good. It's never gonna change. So we talked about customer experience and selection and how the growth flywheel operates, but also what Amazon does throughout the process. Internally, they look at ways to lower their cost structure. And when your internal costs decrease, they pass those lower costs as lower prices to the customer. So they also think about the customer. It's not like, okay, I'm lowering my price, but I'm also keeping my, I'm lowering my cost, but I'm keeping my prices super high. So like this, the customer doesn't benefit from the fact that I'm optimizing internally. No, they're thinking always about the customer. So what they do is lower cost structure and pass those as lower prices to their customers. So what happens? So when you give the customer a lower price, when you give them better selection through more portfolio, right, you improve the customer experience. And accordingly goes the growth flywheel of having more traffic, sellers, lower cost structure, lower prices, and so on. And this creates a mass scale of growth, and accordingly makes your business and the customer experience a great one.
That's great. Ghada, we have a question before you move to the second slide. It's actually one of the comments is like, after sometimes customers may change their requests. So you're talking about durability and what should be our reaction, how we evolve with the customer and we keep evolving with their requests and needs.
Absolutely. So I was going to tap into this. So of course, when you have to always balance between your short-term, long-term, right? So some requests are durable and they don't change, because this is also human requests that will never change across our lifetime, right? But definitely the whole idea here is that you also have to stay very close to your customer. You have to always adapt to their request. I'll give you an example, okay? So when Amazon decided to be an online bookstore, down the road, they've heard a need from the customers that, okay, it will also be great that we are able to access the books from anywhere, right? So this is where Amazon thought, okay, differently. Why don't we also go and tap into hardware and devices domain, right? And create the Amazon Kindle. I think many of you might know the Amazon Kindle already. It's the small device where you can connect online, you can download the books in a matter of seconds, and you can read wherever you want, right? And when Amazon first created that, everyone was still also questioning, okay, they already have the online bookstore, why suddenly they're tapping into this? It's a little bit contradicting. But Amazon didn't think like that. They thought, okay, we still want to even offer a more, what do you call it? Another request that might be interesting for customers, which is how to give the customer the reading experience where, yes, they're opening the book from a device, but they don't feel like reading from a device. Actually, the display screen itself reads like a book. So when you open it, you forget that you're reading from a device. The text, everything looks like as if you're reading from a paper, because many people who are reading lovers and they like and enjoy reading books don't necessarily enjoy reading from devices, right? And this is how to transform the experience. Yes, you are having a device. So like this, as a customer, you can get the book from anywhere online and upload it in a matter of 60 seconds. But at the same time, you're having the reading experience where you feel like you're holding a paper page, not a device page. But initially, the device was huge. It was really big. It was heavy. But Amazon did not think about this at this stage, because they really wanted first to tackle this business problem, right? And to offer an opportunity for customer to solve for this experience. And across the road, they received requests. It's a heavy device. We want it to be waterproof. I want to read from the pool, etc. And this is where they kept evolving the device until what you've seen today, a very small, very thin, very light, waterproof, and new releases and versions and generation of the Kindle has been released across the past years until today. So this is how you have to still be close to your customer to keep improving on your product sets, so that like this you can also expand and continue providing the best experience to your customers. Hope this addresses the question.
It is. Thank you. I think so.
Okay,
we'll take
so
other questions later. So we'll move the second and next slide, and we'll keep taking questions further during the session.
Yes, and we have time. No worries at all, Maya and the team. Okay, so if we look at how we operate here again in Amazon, there are 4 main pillars that we organize against for innovation and growth. Okay, so these are basically the culture, the mechanisms, architecture, and again, I'm not talking here technology. I'll reflect it to be more generic, but the same concepts apply to anything. And the organization structure and teaming structure itself. So these are the 4 pillars that we organize against again, for innovation and growth. So let's deep dive into culture. So first of all, as mentioned earlier, we're a very customer obsessed organization. Everything here evolves around the customer, grows with the customer, and customer outcomes is the top priority for us. So how to achieve this is by making sure that we're hiring the right teams and hiring builders, because we are an innovative company. We want to address customer needs. We want to invent on behalf of customers. So this means we need to hire people with this mindset. We need people who think big, but also are able to dwell into details, people who are ready to take risks, people who want to experiment, people who are not scared from failure, because with failure come lessons learned, and then accordingly you can reorganize for a more successful path. So we look into that. But when you hire people, you need to have a unifying belief system where everyone is operating against, in order to really have successful internal and external outcomes, right? And our belief system lies in our 16 leadership principles. So if you look at the leadership principles here, I'll mention there are 16, and literally, I want to say this is what governs how every single person in Amazon across all its organizations think and operate and collaborate together against. So you guys can read through. So on top of it is customer obsession, but then look at the rest. We want to invent and simplify. So we want to think on behalf of customer. We want to experiment. We also want to simplify things, because when you simplify things, it accelerates your invention. It minimizes the failures. Even if you fail, you don't go into extreme costing issues, right? Because you kept it small, and if it's successful, then you can scale it further, right? We are keen about learning and building capabilities, because the sky is the limit in terms of learning and gaining knowledge, whether it's soft skills, specific industry skills, technology skills, domain skills, and expertise, management skills, leadership, etc. So the sky is limit. We always care about standards and quality. You guys mentioned it a few minutes back. Quality is one key thing that every customer is looking for. So how we are keeping those very high standards internal and passing it over for the customer by getting quality products and quality services from your startup and from your company. Thinking big, having this bias for action, where speed really matters in startups and in any business. Speed is important, because this can actually make you learn faster and adapt faster to the needs. It enables and empowers people to take risks, to own the risks, right? And to really make decisions faster, because sometimes what slows us down is the decision making. Sometimes we're scared to make decisions, which actually slows down your progress, slows down the outcomes that you are trying to achieve with your customers. And this is the last thing you want to go through when you are a startup, when you are building a business. You want to make those decisions, because in reality, 90% of those decisions that you're making are actually reversible, and you can work and reverse them if they were not really the right decisions, and pivot from there and take the right corrective actions later on. Frugality, which is doing more with less. And this touches a lot around how you're working around your costs, lining up and optimizing your teams, etc., so that you can have a successful business. Earning trust is very critical, whether internal or external. The only way you can be successful in the market is that the customer does trust your brand, the customer does trust your product. So this is all critical, important, different type of principles that we adhere to. And honestly, if you look at those, you'll think and believe that there still might be some tension between those leadership principles. So you want to think big, but at the same time, you want to dive deep. And this is why is this tension was created. It's intentional, by the way, is to force people to think, right? You want to think, okay, when I'm applying, okay, I'm having a new idea, but okay, it's an idea. I want to still have the enough details to make sure that we're moving in the right direction, similar to what explained in the previous slides, right? So this is intentional to force people with different mindsets and perspective to sit, collaborate, discuss internally and with the customers to make sure at the end of the day that you're moving in the right direction. And just to let you know, again, these principles are not set on stone. They keep changing and evolving. So coming back to the question about durable customer needs, and if we receive different needs later on, because things keep changing, the environment around us, the world around us keep changing, right? So here also the same. So for example, last year we added 2 more, where we want to be striving to be the Earth-based employer. We want to also scale drives a broader responsibility. All of those are a couple of more leadership principles, because we see the dynamics of changes. We want to be an inclusive, diverse, and equitable environment, right? And we want to think about our employees because these are critical to us. So we think about the customers, we think about our people as well. And accordingly, we keep adding and reinventing on those principles and to line up all our organization against. So I'll stop here. And I would like to listen from you if you guys can relate, because I'm sure many of those, when you read them, you can relate, but it depends on how much you really apply a principle, because we can read through principles but not necessarily apply against them. So how much you guys believe through your startups, your organizations, your businesses are really how you relate to those principles? So I'll stop here and I want to hear from you.
Yes, please, Ghada, I will ask them to put in the chat box maybe 3 top, each one 3 top principles that they do and they strive for in their business or startup. Meanwhile, I have a question. One of the ladies told, what do you mean by are right a lot? So what is this principle triggering in terms of?
Sure. So are right a lot is when you are able to make the right judgment with the minimal amount of information. And we do cross lots of situations that, okay, I don't have enough information or background about the specific issue or the specific challenge or the specific idea. But I need to build the capability that I'm still able to make the right judgment and decision making with the minimal amount of information that I have today, because I know that I don't have enough information. And it might be a time issue that you will not be able to capture all the information, or really there is not enough information available for you today to use. So how you can leverage your ability to have the right judgment in this situation, and you still have to admit and accept that you're taking risks. You need to own your risks, and then based on the outcome, you need to reassess and restructure accordingly, or maybe it has been the right decision already, so already you can scale against this decision. So I hope this answers.
Yes, we have actually other questions like, how do people embody those values? I believe like you said it, Ghada, but maybe if you want to explore more about it and discuss more about, they are good on the wall, but how people live them. So how do you I would say, cascade down this value principles into the daily life of Amazon's employees, maybe, or stakeholders, not only employees who are abiding with these principles. Also, I think the stakeholders would love to be part of this journey.
Sure. So let me give you an example. Me as a leader, I call myself an entrepreneur because I'm having my small startup in Amazon, which is the professional services for public sector. And here I'm working very closely with customers because I'm helping them to use the technology, right? Many of the customers doesn't necessarily have the skill and the capability to leverage the technology to achieve their outcomes. And this is where myself and my team are here to support the customers around that. So how we operate is really by applying those. First of all, when I started, I had to hire and develop the best. I needed to create an organization that can start working with the customers. I cannot do it all alone, correct? Similar to any business. So this is where I had to invest time in order to go through a hiring process. I had to understand and to form the organization structure that I need to address the customer needs. And I had to hire, coach, and grow my team in order to serve across the whole Middle East and Africa. I had to encourage a culture of learning, because many of the new joiners need to understand Amazon, need to understand the product. They need to learn the offerings. Otherwise, how you'll put the people in front of the customer, how these can be the right experts to serve the customers, right? And you need to encourage this learning environment. I had to cascade ownership, because as we grow and scale across countries, I cannot do it all alone. So I had to create other leaders and to grow leaders within my team, and to cascade and what do you call as delegate the ownership into decision making, and to empower them to do that. I had to sit with the team and think big, right? Okay, these are the offerings, but we saw that there is a demand around other type of needs that our customer need in Middle East and Africa, which is not necessarily an existing offering today. Okay, how about thinking big and trying to come up with new offerings that we know that serves this market specifically and will help us with our customer base here. Earning trust, internal and external, as mentioned. So this is how we try to work and operate across those leadership principles. And by the way, it might sound a little bit weird, but actually, even when we communicate inside Amazon, we literally call out those principles. So I can go and like, guys, there is a new training, so let's learn and be curious. So it's a reminder, right? Or let's say someone is slow in making decisions. So I was like, hey, have a bias for action. Go ahead and make the decision. Don't be scared and own your decision and be a risk taker. Even if you're so worried, take the risk and operate against it, right? So this is how we actually do it in Amazon. And I really encourage many of the people to leverage the same. Again, it's not a set in stone principles. Maybe every startup and business might have different other set of principles, but really how you're organizing your teams and reminding them to operate against it and empowering them to operate against it.
I will echo. I'm echoing some of the comments they're saying absolutely beautiful, and it's nice how you are using those values in your internal communications to have everyone's reminded on every day. One of the comments, Hima said she likes the unless you know better ones, please be a leader, which is like remind us like always we're evolving and keeping everyone's included by having others also good and best practices. I have and also thank you so much Ghada, because now you're reminding us that it might look might look perfect, but every business has a challenge. So we had one comment saying, I feel like everything is perfect at Amazon. Do you have guys any business challenges? Of course. So as you said, like having your setup was a bit challenging at the very beginning.
Of course. And by the way, we keep saying this, Amazon is a result of decades of hard work. We have also stories around failure stories. Like we tried to have the Fire phone. If many of you have heard about this years back, and tapping into hardware devices, creating our Fire phones. And this was not a successful business challenge, and it wasn't a successful product. But the result of that was, yeah, they suspended the whole product, right? And it stopped in the market. It doesn't exist anymore. But they used the lesson learned, and they asked all the engineers who were behind the Fire phone to learn from the lesson. And they repurposed this engineering team to look into other areas where from hardware devices, we can produce something that's really successful and can address also customer needs. And from there, Alexa, which is the most popular, one of the most popular devices for Amazon, has been created and released, and a very successful product in the market, and many of us are using Alexa or the Fire TV, etc. So again, it's not like it's a fancy life, it's a decade of experience and maturity that we're bringing in. And again, when you apply those leadership principles, of course, it's not that easy, and sometimes you work with them, sometimes you forget, and things might not going that well. But again, this is the whole idea. We also work, we collaborate together, we give feedback, we try to realign back to the right stream of things, and it's a learning and growth and maturity journey.
Indeed, and it's actually kind of good today to have this eye opener and this inspiration that we need to stick to our values. Like I've seen people or maybe someone saying that my values maybe looks a bit more boring. It is not. It is what you believe in and genuinely want to have it. But it's good to have it all the time and to think and sometimes to rethink, because this is how you maybe adapt to the environment, and having people at the really center of your attention, whether it's customer, employee, or any other people, a human-centered action. This is very important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's the whole idea about how you have the values and action those values, right? Because this is where you make the values an operational framework for you and your teams, and accordingly, then you can really see great results.
Exactly.
Okay.
Very important. Yes.
Great. So the next one is the mechanisms. Okay, so what's a mechanism? A mechanism is encoded behaviors that facilitate innovative thinking. So if you think about it, it's processes, right? Techniques of doing things, right? In very simple words. If you have a process, right? Any process on the planet has inputs and the expected outcome, right? And in the middle sits the engine that makes this work, right? To take the input into the engine and get the output out of this engine, right? So what's inside the engine is tools. It's all the rules that you're adopting, right? And also inspection, because any process needs to be regularly inspected. If you have a process that has been the same for so long, there must be something wrong, because this means it has not been adapted to changes that's happening in our world, and our world is an continuously changing environment. We saw this in COVID, how things suddenly drastically change from people who go to offices and sit and have to face-to-face meetings and on planes all the time, to sudden complete remote work, which we thought initially would not work. And surprisingly, many people actually were very effective, efficient through the remote work, and it really worked. So this is the whole idea. So you have to always inspect your process to make sure it's adapting to changes, so that it's always a successful process. And at the end of the day, some of those processes can be, for example, if we're very specific today about sales, things around, let's say, creating your business reviews. If you have a process around your monthly business reviews and reporting, things around operating business operation processes and P&L reviews, etc. So these are the different mechanisms, or if there is specific sales mechanism, which I'll talk about in a little bit, that you want to adopt, and you're adopting like qualification processes for any specific new accounts, so that you can drive a sales cycle with those accounts. So these are the things that it's very critical that you define them, so that people can operate and your teams can operate against them. And here in Amazon, one of the key mechanisms for innovation is what we call as the working backward process. Okay, so working backward is a very interesting thing. If you remember on my, I think, third slide, we talked about Jeff's code, where you create a product and you give it to the marketing to create the press release, and from there you want to create your sales motion, right? And we said this process is backward on its own, okay? So what here we do is different and very unique. What we do is, as mentioned, and we all agree on, is that no, we have to engage with the customer very early before even we write a single line of code, right? So put any investment into creating a product. It's not necessarily technology. We can generalize here. So what we do is we sit with the customers very closely, and we run what we call as the working backward workshop. And the working backward workshop is to put the customer in a future mind state, where the customer jointly helping the customer to write their press release in advance. So actually you're writing the press release before even having a product released in the market for this customer. So how we do this, we put them in the state that, okay, we'll write a one-pager of how the press release looks like on the day of XYZ. We're releasing this product. It's addressing this customer domain. It's these are the functions that or the outcomes that you get from my product or my service. And even sometimes we put fictional codes of their consumers, right, or their end users, that this is what they talk, what's their feedback about the product. So like this, you're putting your customer in a future mind state in advance so that they can envision how the product will actually look like on the day of the release. Also, we go into extensive deep dive into FAQs, because every product or service must have an FAQ most of the time associated to it. What are the questions that you're expecting to receive from your customers? What are the questions that you will receive also from your internal stakeholders, even the harsh ones, like, it's very expensive, why are we doing this? Or there is lots of competition out there, what's so unique about your product? Or the customer would say, what is in it for me? So these harsh questions even are tackled in the FAQ, because also it puts you and your customer in the mindset of thinking of how to really produce something that makes sense and will be a successful invention or innovation or product or service at the end of the day. And last but not least, you really want to create all your visuals, which is the customer experience in advance, so that you have a better sense of how this product actually will look like. So in the working backward, there are 5 main customer questions that we all line up against. First of all, who is the customer that you're trying to address when you are creating this product, right? What is the customer problem or the opportunity you're working against in order to support this customer? Is the most important customer benefit clear, even the customer understand it themselves? So how do you know what the customer need or want? Because sometimes we run into this thing that when you talk to your customer, the customer gives you their pain point or what they need. But in reality, when you dig deeper, you can unleash actually other pain points, which is actually the customer pain point and not what the customer think is their pain point. And this is where these are very critical to be the right advisor to your customers and to make sure that you're addressing the real needs and the need opportunity they're looking for. And what does the customer experience look like at the end of the day? So I'll stop here. What do you guys think? So do you can you relate to this? What do you think about this process? Do you think you can relate it to your businesses, to your teams, to your products? So I'm not sure if you're talking, but
exactly, they're throwing on the chat box. Consumer analysis is important and should be done regularly. Absolutely, this can relate to them, like having just asking those questions and to see what the customer needs. Any other reflection?
Any questions? Anything that about? Go ahead,
I
Yamani, sorry.
I think it's important to highlight, as you highlighted, the difference between, or maybe this slight difference between what do they really need and what are their pain points when discussing to them, and discovering while talking what is the root cause of their problem. We have a few comments. Let me just take them out. Do you do groups with potential customers and put these questions across? So how do you get questions to these or answers to these questions?
So, sure. So thanks, Maya. So basically, we do schedule a workshop with the customer, and definitely we get stakeholders, and our stakeholders who get engaged from the business organizations. We get people from, maybe if it's a technology also driven company, from the technology organization. So we have to broaden across the different stakeholders from the customer side, and we run these workshops by throwing the questions, and it depends on the conversation. So actually it's an interactive session, right, where we actually also use the board, we use sticker notes, we dig deeper into it, and we dive deep. So our experts, we do have experts who run those sessions, so we make them sit with the customer, and they even take customers' answers and they dig deeper into that. So this is when you dig deeper, also you might unveil other issues and problems that the customer didn't surface in the beginning, right? So these continued conversations, it's a 1 to 2 days workshop, is what really can make us come up with the significant details, and accordingly we can go ahead and create the one around the press release itself, which summarizes in a very crisp way what exactly are we solving for, whether it's a product or service that this press release is going to be about. I hope this answers.
Yeah, I have a question. Do you do this with potential customers or already customers that you're having?
Every single customer that has a business problem, we go through working back.
Okay, so I have a few comments also. In my organization, we do talk to consumers regularly and take feedback and ask questions for them. We have another question, as I told you earlier. So the question is, when you do this, when you say customer experience, do you mean using the product or service before launching it, like MVP, or the finished product?
Okay, let me show you how it looks like. It was the next slide. Okay, so as you've seen here, as you can see here, okay, so the press release is actually a one-page document, and it looks like an actual, it's not look like, it is an actual press release. But again, this is before building the product, because it's a futuristic point of view, right? And then the FAQ is an FAQ with questions and answers that we drive closely, and we work with the customers, right? The customer experience is in the visuals. If you see on the screen here, this is what we show as visuals, the whole customer experience. Let's say it's a website, or it's an actual product, or a device, or I don't know, it depends on the industry and the domain. So this is how it looks like. So it's a visualization of how it will look like, and you document the experience in that format, so that they get better understanding of overall in step the users. So you define the personas, the features that they're using, and what it looked like as an outcome in terms of the visualization itself. So does this answer the question? I hope it answers it.
I hope so. Let us see other questions while we get her feedback. So it's someone saying it is easier to do it with B2B. How can you have this dialogue with individual customers?
So individual customers, like you already have your defined customers, or you're talking about a wider customer base?
Maybe individuals, like target customer they're talking about. So,
because if there is a target customer, then you can reach the customer to still run those workshops. Maybe you want to minimize what we call as pilot customers. Let's say that you have a wide range base of customers in a specific consumer domain. So maybe you want to identify a couple of them to get this feedback and to run this exercise with them, right? So there are different techniques of how you want to apply it, because it might be another company, right? Or an institute or whatever. So I agree that like this, you have specific stakeholders that you can interact with. But if you have a wider consumer base, because if you think about Amazon is a consumer driven, right? Kindle is also a consumer driven, and they get these responses from customers through surveys, etc., in order to capture the needs or identify what we call as pilot consumers, so that you can capture more information to get the survey and the feedback from them in order to produce what you need. So there are different tactics here that you can apply, but the same concept still can be leveraged across different customer domains.
And now with the social media, do you agree with me that it's easier now to ask customers, potential customers, to test some products, especially having different polls and posts that we can put on Instagram, on other social media platform. We can get their information, we can get survey and ask them about if they like it or not. So it's easier now than before when we target individuals.
Of course, so there are many means today that can be leveraged. You can also host a small, again, session, invite some of your consumers, and accordingly having this interactive session and driving it exactly the same way. Sometimes also through your product, through your sites, you're receiving feedback, right? So already through this feedback, you can encapsulate a generalized request across the board. So this is something that you have to listen to and start thinking about how you address, because already you're receiving a common feedback, let's say from hundreds of those users, a very common one, and then accordingly you need to address against it. So there are multiple ways and techniques you can apply this as well.
Yes, we have another question. What are your metrics like to decide if it's viable opportunity or not? So once you do this exercise, how do you come up with the decision on this?
So again, the decision you make it with, if it's a specific customer, you can easily make the decision with the customer because you have driven all of this information, right? So the idea here is not about making the right or wrong decision. It's about the process of landing the decision. You have to remember this exercise is to land the decision. It's not because you're doing this exercise and then you end up with the paper and think, okay, should I do it or not? The fact that you have the paper already identified with clear use case means that you came to the decision. So this is what you guys need to remember, is that this exercise is to really, through the process with the customer, is that you have identified what's the right thing to do, right? It's not because you're driving, and again, this has to be very crisp, specific. You cannot have a PR FAQ that's stating hundreds of ideas unrelated. Then this is not a press release. This has nothing to do with products and has nothing to do with being specific on FAQs related to this specific product or service. No, this is a press release about a product, about a service that you already clearly with the customer have defined it on paper, right? And through the discussions. So this means you already made the decision. You have to go forward. I think it's yes, it's important as well, Ghada. The concept that you're showing here today is just to drive the customer to live the experience before getting the product in hand. So having just thinking and reflecting our own business, how we can do it, whether it's B2C or B2B, is how to push and ask those customers directly to be living in this experience so they can materialize the product before getting into hand and make the decision to whether to go into contract or to buy it, right? Exactly.
Well, I have another question, is a nice question. Do you have this template release as template, a sample, for example?
I need to check and get back to you. We do have templates, but again, it's very much illustration like this one, but I need to check and get back to you if there is more publicly shareable content here. Sure.
Yes, Ghada, we can go to the second section.
But I hope that it's clear for everyone how and why this mechanism, because again, as mentioned, it drives you through the process, as Maya mentioned, puts the customer in the experience. And through this process, you define exactly which product the customer needs. And it should be clear for everyone. And accordingly, it becomes very easy. It becomes a go, no go, depending on other dimensions, which I want to talk about. So again, if you want to relate again into the sales itself, right, cycle. So there are so many things. Let's say you have already a product and you want to sell to customers. So this is where you also create mechanisms around your whole sales process, right? Things around, okay, how do you qualify your accounts and shortlist the accounts that you really want to work on? What's the matrix around this account qualification so that you're making sure that you're focusing on the right accounts at this stage, right? Because there is so much as a capacity that you are able to do. You cannot, maybe you can tackle only 10 accounts because you're still at early stages, you have small teams, and focus and having the right prioritization is very key for success here, because trying to be all over the place doesn't make you a successful business, right? You have to have and build slowly and clearly your success stories, and from there with specific customer base, and you keep expanding and adding to it. If you're having the right relation at the right stakeholder level, at the customer side, the decision makers, and at every level and aspect of customer teams, you have the right relation, and you're actually having the right decision makers and sponsors from the customer side. If the customer have the budgets, because again, for example, here, and you're trying to build a product, that the customer have a budget. Do we have a way to, okay, tackle the budget? Maybe they don't have a big budget in the beginning, so why don't we create a pilot, and later on we can expand the product as a customer can secure more budgets in the future, right? So it become more of a phased approach. Understanding procurement cycles at the customer end, because at the end, you are creating a contract to sell a product to the customer, to sell a service to the customer. So you need to understand this whole procurement cycle, making sure that you're lining up your teams internally. They understand the product, so that when they sit with the customer, they are the right advisors in order to make the customer understand how they can leverage their outcomes through the products and features, and also to listen to customer needs to bring it back to the business, having the right tools, etc. So all of these are different mechanisms, like sales cycle processes, that you need to develop at your organizations, or innovation mechanisms like the working backward that you need to apply in order to have a successful business. And I keep saying this to everyone, focus on prioritization is very critical for success, and it's the best way to be successful and achieving great outcomes with your customers. Okay, so we'll go next for architecture. Again, I'll try, this is, we're technology company, so we talk a lot about architecture, but I'll just give you the concept. And again, this can apply to any organization from a concept point of view. So when Amazon started, they created the website. So this is a web application, right? So everything in the application in terms of the code itself was all centralized, right? Including all the different functions like the buy button, the order fulfillment process, etc. Everything was consolidated in one single application. So what happened as the system scaled to cater for millions of users, it became very hard to do changes and to expand fast, because one change in the application in one of those functions would bring everything else down, right? Because when they try to roll out the new release of the application, everything has to go down. So in very simple words, this was really, it made the whole system and mechanism very slow. And this is where they had to look into how they have to change the whole structure and architecture itself to become more of a services function oriented, even from a coding perspective, so that when I'm fixing the code for one function, it doesn't impact the rest. And of course, when an application function stops, this means even the underlying process and humans who are using this system, they get halted, right? They cannot operate because the system is down, right? So how to actually move from a full service mindset and way of operation to a self-service, and remove all of those gatekeepers to allow for agility and faster engagement, faster interaction with the customer, and faster outcomes. So this is a mindset that everyone needs to think of, not only from a technology point of view, but also in the way we operate. Sometimes we're too centralized. We want everything to be central. All the decision making has to be central. it becomes a very harsh thing, because it becomes a showstopper for many who want to really hit the ground running, right? And they want to move fast with the customer pace, because the environment and the world around us is super fast. And this is where you want to move from a full service centralized, so more of a self-service decentralized. Yes, you have frameworks that governs how you operate, but you want people to move with speed and agility, by providing them the right tools and the ability to do their jobs right without being impacted by others if the changes need to apply in other areas and domains. So just again for illustration, so this is how Amazon, for example, from technology point of view, broke down its services in AWS and Amazon Web Services. So you see hundreds of those, and these are really, everyone is a self-service on its own, fully operational on its own. If you change one service, it does not impact the others, and it's very easy to integrate. So the whole idea is that, yeah, everyone is a self-service, but at the end of the day, if you want to integrate them, it is an easy thing to integrate those different services. So if you think about it from technology point of view, you can also think about it from also your business point of view, from your processes point of view, from teaming, which I'll talk about in the next slide, and organizational structure point of view. So how to cascade into becoming a more dynamic, agile organizations to act with speed and agility. So any questions here? So again, if you look at the outcomes here, if you think about, okay, now if I have thousands of teams, let's say, and I have this broken down self-service architecture, and I continuously deliver, and I have those multiple environments, this means, as per to Amazon, in terms of growth, you increase your deployments on the environment. So you have like 194 million deployments a year. So actually this is growth, and this is scale, and this is speed. So, and with growth means more successful business, you're generating better revenues for your business, and you're creating a stronger customer references in the market, you're increasing your footprint in the market, and penetrating even new accounts and expanding into a new customer base. So all of this helps in scale and expansion and growth for the business, and again, the outcomes you're achieving with customers. So any questions here, team?
No questions so far. Maybe we can still move forward, and while maybe the audience put their questions in the chat box, we'll take them later.
Okay, sure. Okay, so the last one I want, actually not, yeah, there is another topic I'll talk about, touch on quickly. So another one is the organization, which comes as the next after architecture with the same mindset. So again, when you look about the formation of your teams, here in Amazon, we create, look, Amazon is a huge organization. We have, I think the last report I read was around 1.5 million employees for the whole Amazon, right? So it's a large, huge number, right? But in reality, how we form our teams internally is that we create small, decentralized, nimble teams. We follow what we call as a 2-pizza team. So what's a 2-pizza team? This means that the size of the team will not exceed the number of individuals who can eat 2 pizzas. This is what we mean by a 2-pizza team, which means we're talking about 10 to 12 resources per team, okay? And again, it's very decentralized, small team. They are single-threaded. What does single-threaded mean? It means that the resources own end-to-end the product, the service, the tasks related to and allocated to this team, independent from any other teams that are operating around them. So they own it end to end, right? And why this is a good concept and efficient concept? Because it removes bureaucracy, it minimizes communication challenges, it's easier to cascade ownership, it improves agility in terms of decision making, and you can realize a better, faster outcome, right? So you are actually having builders and owners at the end of the day. And the whole idea here, again, is around experimenting. Every time in startups mindset, you want to experiment early and frequently. You want to minimize cost impact with the experimentation. And if you're successful, you want to scale it. And if you face failures, then you want to learn from it and pivot and adjust in order to have the success and scale eventually, right? And this cannot happen if you have really huge, massive teams where so many people are dependent on each other, and makes it a very heavy organization that's very slow in making decisions and moving around and interacting with the customers. So the smaller the team and the focus they are, the better the outcomes would be. So any questions here? I'll stop here. Do you guys relate to that? Because yeah, we as startups, we start small, we can always grow bigger. So again, Amazon was a startup. Now it has thousands and hundreds of thousands of employees all over the world. But again, this is how we're structured to act with agility internally. So what do you guys think about that?
Actually, Ghada, we have a good question as well. It's an important, maybe you can get your view on this, how to balance what we want to do in the business and what clients want. It's really not easy to balance between what we want to do and want to do in the business and how the client are perceiving it and responding to their needs.
Mm-hmm. So maybe I need more clarity on the question, because again, if you have a gap between what you want as a business versus what the client wants, then you're not in the right spot, I have to say, because your business here is to serve the customer, right? So this is where you have to stop and reassess the whole situation, right? Maybe you don't really, I would say, understanding a specific business problem from customer at this stage. Maybe you need to dig deeper to the customer to really align your business mission versus the customer. But it's a little bit tricky if you're in a state where my business direction is something and actually what customer needs is something else, then you really have a gap that you need to work on. I just want to know exactly if you have an example here so I can answer it better with more feedback, because it triggers an alarm if you do have this gap.
Yeah, maybe by the end of the session, we can take Jawahar's call or maybe we discuss more about it, if you allow me. Going back to your two pizza structure and team, how we make it. So we have a few comments on this. Yes, it makes good sense. We are thinking of doing this, but have not moved forward with yet with this concept. Your teams are products driven. Are they really product driven, and what are the topics the teams are working on? Example, just can you give an example? What is the scope or maybe the scale of team we're talking about? Like, is it a division? And another question, is it more in terms of number of team? Is it really depending on the project size or standard or any, or it is regardless the project that we're talking on or about?
Sure. So here it's across the board. So we do have products because Amazon does create products. I mentioned many of those. Some of them are hardware devices. Some of them are the product itself when it comes to the retail e-commerce site. And all the services that happens behind the scenes around order, fulfillments and shipments, etc. Right? In Amazon Web Services, we're technology teams. So we do have Amazon Web Services products. We have sales organizations. We have delivery organizations. We have partners organization. So this is across the board, by the way. This is not specific only to products, right? It's again how to structure the team with focus. And again, there is no rule of the size of, it could be a team of 3, 4, it could be a size of 10, 12. But what we try to do is that if at one point we feel that the organization is growing too big, that is becoming a huge, I would call it elephant, right, in the room, that really speeding and working with customers will not work, then automatically you need to look at the right structure of where you want to split this team so that they have smaller set of mission and goals they want to achieve so that you get better outcomes. So for example, we have delivery organization. It's huge, right? You can have hundreds of people in delivery organization, but how do you split those teams into, okay, there is a team that's maybe focused on specific verticals because they have industry expertise like healthcare, energy, etc. So instead of having a big, huge team led by one person, no, split them. And this team will be focused on those verticals because it has this uniqueness of industry need that needs to be associated with it. Maybe you have other organizations that need to focus on post-delivery support. You have another organization looking into training. You need to train your customers on how to use the product. And this is how you start breaking it down. Again, it could be teams of 3, 4. It could be teams of 10, 12. But again, how you are structuring for better and faster decision making. And again, every team, when you structure them, needs to have a goal they need to achieve. They need to understand what's the responsibilities, what's the outcome they want to achieve, how they will measure it, how they need to interact with customers, if there is any specific domains. You have to put those specific dimensions so that they can operate successfully against it. I hope this answers the question. Yeah.
Exactly. We have another question, which is more about, you said one team, one thread. So as if everyone, like they're working each department in silos, how do you ensure that they're learning from each other's experience? How do you share those knowledge between teams and departments?
Sure. So here, when I talked about having those meetings, is from an operation point of view to achieve faster outcome. But definitely, as mentioned, cross collaboration is very critical because you serve a bigger business at the end of the day, right? And the idea is focus and then collaborating across, right? So again, I'll give an example here from what I'm going through here in Amazon Web Services, right? And how we're structured. So I do delivery for our services, right? I own the team and I lead the team who deliver the services, but I need sales organization to put me in the right accounts, put me with the right customers so that I can offer my services to those customers and execute against it, right? I also sometimes cannot operate on my own. I need other external third-party partners to support us in the delivery or help us in specific accounts. So I collaborate with my peers in partners organization. Sometimes also to deliver a service to the customer, they need to be trained a little bit about the product. So this is where the close collaboration is very critical. And again, it's the responsibility of the leaders of those organizations to get together and to form the right structure and mechanism, again, going back to mechanisms into how they are sharing those experiences and feedback and progress across each other, and how they're operating together at the end of the day, right? Because you're producing a product, you want to sell the product, so there must be some sort of a mechanism to train the sellers, to empower them to go and position in front of the customers, to get the services team to help the customer adopt the product, etc. So the leaders are important here to create this environment of collaboration and cascade it downward across the teams. But at the end of the day, every small team has its responsibilities for effective outcome and getting it all together through collaboration and overall strategy that they need to achieve.
Yeah, thank you, Ghada. I don't know if you still have, but any more clarification needed on this point. I want to ask you questions that some are reflecting on. To what extent this concept would be applicable to small companies? Like if Hema said, we are in, if I think about it in our growing company, a lot of SOPs would be required for better coordination between the team, the departments. How could be reflected in our small company?
Actually, even in small companies, it's easier, right? Because already you're structured around small teams, right? I think the challenge is more when the company and organization scales, they hire more people because of the scale demands, and it starts becoming too big. And this is where they need to remember to prioritize their sub-teams' outcomes so that they are really more effective. Otherwise, everything will be lost in translation and can be chaotic, right? So, and actually the 2 Pizza team came from Amazon being a startup. It was a very small organization with few individuals, right? So, and it as Amazon grew, it did not get lost into having and creating large hierarchical organizations, which do exist outside in our outside world and many of other companies, and it's harsh to operate with a very fast dynamic markets with very large hierarchical organization. And this is how Amazon, through the Two Pizza team, which was actually created when they were small and cascaded over the years, even as Amazon is growing, they kept the same concept to stay focused and to produce the right outcome and to still continue acting with speed at every single level, regardless of how big the organization and the fact that it went global across the world, and not only in the US, it's now all over the world, right? So I think it's actually much easier to apply this and the good thing and what you need to do is to cultivate this culture from the beginning and to continue operating against it. The problem is that when you grow in size too much, you forget about this concept. And really you start having those whole big, huge, hierarchical, massive organization, hard to communicate and so on. If you continue adopting this culture as you grow, then it should be much easier to apply and to operate against.
Yes, great. Actually, there is a question about any software. Do you recommend any software or system to manage or observe coordination between various teams?
I don't have any specific recommendation at this stage, but happy to check and get back to you. But at this stage, there is no specific software to call out, because again, it depends on the company and what they want to leverage. And again, it's not only about the tool, it's about the process, about mechanism, about really adopting it, right? And that the people are really working against it, because as much as you want to have a tool, but are people using the tool, right? You have to remember, are really people using the tool? Are they really sharing through the tool? Sometimes sharing is easier and faster also through verbal communications. So it's really developing the whole mechanism, and then accordingly you can decide which tools you want, because there is no right and wrong tool. It depends on how it looks like in terms of the mechanism, and accordingly what's the best adapted tool out there, and there are lots of tools in the market. And then how to operate really against it. This is really what matters.
Yeah. Actually, I'm getting a lot of great feedback about, thank you so much for the explanation. And if you don't mind, Jawahir and I would say Shahid, we're going to take your question at the very end of the presentation or the session, because I believe there is one section left, and to be cautious of time and not to retain everyone's a lot of time. So I would ask you, please, Ghada, to go ahead, and other questions will be taken at the end of the session.
Sure. I know we're on top of the hour, but I'll go quickly into one more slide here, which is important. Because this was mentioned during the session, is after sales. What do we do after sales to maintain this customer experience, right? Again, it depends what we're selling. Are we selling a product, a service, etc.? Okay, so what it takes to make sure that the customer is receiving all the right enablement to really leverage the best out of this product or service, right? So for example, in Amazon, and as mentioned, we do have a services, professional services arm, because it's a technology. Not every customer is really expert in the technology where they can go and develop and invent on their own. So we have a team of experts who go and get engaged with the customers in order to help them with the journey by delivering a set of advisory, consulting, or even implementation services for the customer. You also can think about the support. If you're selling a product and there can be defects on the product, or you want to listen to extra feedback from the customer around the product that can be added as enhancements for the product. And this is where you want to look into support and managed services within your organization to cater for that, because this is very critical for the customer experience, especially if you have SLAs against some of those products, if it's technology based, etc. So how you're giving and forming support teams in order to help customers later on if they have a break in the product or a defect or etc., then how you're tackling it with speed. Again, training. Many customers need to be trained. It doesn't need to be official training only. Sometimes it's there is a product, they want to know how to use the product, right? So this is where you want to give them a bit of a training into how to use it in the best way to get the best outcome of it. It could be a software that the employees have to use to, let's say, enter their time cards, etc. So you want to make sure that they're adopting it in the right way, they're reflecting the right information on the tool. So you need to give them training against it. And sometimes also to scale, you need to find partners, right? And partners who, let's say, maybe have additional features in their product that complements your product, and you want to go to the market together. So why would you want to reinvent a feature that already exists in the market? Maybe you want to just partner with that other product partner and actually accelerate your growth both together, right? This can be one approach. Another approach could be that you want to have more of those external third-party partners in order to resell your product, because you don't have enough capacity in terms of sales and marketing. So you want other third-party vendors out there who are interested to be resellers for your product to resell it. And like this, they can even scale into more customer base and gives you all the expansion support that you need. Some concepts also relate to marketplaces. In Amazon, we have a marketplace concept where actually third-party vendors can put their products on a marketplace, and accordingly, this can be procured from Amazon marketplace for other third-party products. So this is how you think about your product and how internally you form the full ecosystem with your teams, with even third-party partners, in order to be able to give the best to the customers and to execute against once you have the product and you sold it to the customer. So I'll stop here, and I want to know if you have any questions around this one.
We have indeed. If you want to proceed with the AWS, how can you guide us? Anyone can help?
So we can take this, Maya, offline, because I need to have more details of the help that's needed, and definitely more than happy to support.
Please, I would ask you to drop us an email, and we will gonna take it forward with Ghada. So you can send us an email on the email address. I'm gonna share it on the chat box. Great feedback. They were happy with, everyone's happy with the eye opener. Thank you so much, Ghada, for all of the inputs and insight today you gave us, not only about the culture, but all the mechanism that could be implemented to make it a successful and innovative business. Any other questions that we have before we maybe close the session, or we take the last two, which is from Jawahir and Shahid? Jawahir is the one who said that she doesn't know how to do the balance between what she wants to do and what's the customer's needs. And she's saying that, for example, if the owner wants to set a price, but the clients think it's unsuitable, or if the owner wants to conduct a survey in a certain form, but clients prefer something else. So I think maybe, Jawahir, we can take it this one from a product positioning and market positioning for this product, more than having a culture of innovation within the company. So it's more about, I'm gonna recommend to watch one of our sessions about how to target the right customers. And as the Ghada said, it's important to identify who is your persona and who you want to target the product for. Is there anything, Ghada, you want to talk about this kind of?
Okay, let me tell Jawahir something. So I understand totally now better your point here. One of the leadership principles that was mentioned in the slide up was have backbone and disagree and commit. Okay, so what does this mean? Is that if you see these kind of conflicts, right? But the first thing you want to do is capture your data points. Have all the data relevant. If you believe that the management or leadership decision is not going in the right direction, make sure that you capture all the data points direct from your customers, right? And prepare your case, right? You have to be very specific, because if you can just go and tell your business leaders, no, the customers think this is expensive. Okay, it doesn't help in anything, because they will continue in the same direction, right? But you really need to have a better, deeper dive capture from your customer base and widen the feedback, right? Because again, it can be one customer feedback, which again, many of the business owners not necessarily will make a decision based on that. Maybe a more broader customer feedback around pricing. If it's a generic, more generic feedback from customers, then this is where you want to capture and create a short 1 or 2 pager business case, okay, to explain exactly where the challenge is and what exactly is the customer feedback about. Now, it can happen that the business owners will reject your point of view and will reject the business case. It can happen. And it doesn't mean that they don't care about the customer. Actually, they do care. But also, as you mentioned, they might have other dynamics that is influencing their decision, right? Which is can be internal or other future business goals that's not necessarily at this stage disclosed, right? This is where we have the disagree and commit parts, which means that, okay, I'm disagreeing with me as Jawahir, I'm disagreeing with you as a business leader on the decision that you don't want to lower the price because many customers are not happy with the price, but I will commit with you on your decision to make it successful as much as I can. And this happens a lot when we go to those meetings and we have conflicting point of views. And by the way, it doesn't mean that I'm right and they're wrong, or they're right and I'm wrong. It's different point of views. But this is the point where one has to make the final decision and the rest has to abide to the decision to make it successful. It's not like, okay, you made this decision, so I'm going to throw the ball and it's your problem and you'll see when it fails. This is not the culture and not the dynamic, because maybe by time you realize that they were correct. You never know, right? So this is where you have to accept the final decision and work against it to make it successful as much as you can, because you're part of this team and you're not outside this team, right? You are part of this team. And this is where we encourage. And this is how we operate in Amazon. Otherwise, if you start having fragmented teams, because I don't like your decision, so you know what, I'm not going to do it, then good luck with that. Nothing will work fine. And there are many times, many of the people who disagreed with the decision but still committed realized by time that they actually were, these decisions were right ones and were not wrong ones. So that should be fine. And this is how, the mindset that you need to be operating with. So I hope this gave you another dimension of how you can think about it.
Definitely. I guess also it also answers others' questions as well. So we're coming to the end of the session. Thank you so much, Ghada, for accepting our invitation and for, as I said, delivering one of the greatest presentation and eye-opener workshops for us. We thank you and Women and Nama for all the support we're having in conducting those workshops. The festive season is on the door, so we're gonna stop doing our workshops in December. It's a break for everyone, and we hope to see you again in January 2023. Thank you so much for being loyal and keep getting back to our workshops. Thank you for all the feedback we're getting from you. I'm gonna launch a last poll quickly, because I believe that it's important for us to understand and to see how the sessions has improved your knowledge. And I'll give the mic to Ghada maybe to say a few words before we close the session.
Sure. So first of all, thanks, Maya, really for giving me the opportunity to meet all our great entrepreneurs and leaders here on the call. I really hope the session was useful. And again, it's an eye-opener on how different startups operated to become the large organizations that exist today. Again, remember that everything is evolving around customers, and we need to invent about customers, and we need to be always patient, because it's a process, it's a maturity and experience thing as we grow our businesses. Again, thanks a lot, and I hope you all enjoyed it, and definitely happy to take your further questions and feedback offline. And yeah, enjoy the seasons and the holidays coming up, and hopefully talk to you all soon.
Thank you so much, and see you soon. Have a nice Day and holy festive seasons from Eid al-Watani to Christmas, Eid al-Watani in the UAE to Christmas seasons, and Happy New Year. I hope so. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
I'm gonna